How long do you have once you've received an RFE to respond? My name is Elektra. I talk about all things O-1 visa, artist visa, and the arts in New York City. So you've received an RFE. You're scared. You don't know what's happening. You feel like USCIS has rejected your case. What's happening? So first of all, let's backtrack. Let's talk about RFEs in general. So what is an RFE? An RFE is a request for further evidence. It's essentially a document or a letter where USCIS is asking for more information, for more evidence to prove the deficiency of one or more criteria. This essentially means that when you submitted the petition, however the officer analyzed it, he or she determined that the criteria that was argued was not met, meaning that they did not believe or they were not persuaded in what you argued. When that occurs, they will issue a request for further evidence. Now, it's not the end of the world that you've gotten a request for further evidence. In fact, I would encourage you to change your mindset and see it as actually customary, right? This is something that is very common in the O-1 world, and I would say in all visa petitions. It's not a black and white situation, especially when we're dealing with the arts, which is a lot more nuanced, right? Especially when we're dealing with artistic disciplines that are not so easily accessible or known by different individuals. For example, multidisciplinary artists, what does that even mean, right? For lots of individuals, it does not have a specific definition. So that could be one of the reasons why an RFE was issued. But as I said earlier, they're normal, they're customary. In fact, I think that you should be prepared to receive an RFE. Now, once you receive an RFE, how much time do you actually get? So you get 60 days from the date on the document to submit your response. So 60 days is 2 months. Whether or not that's a long time or not a long time is for you to assess. Now, every firm is different when it comes to RFEs, right? There are some firms who will answer them right away and include evidence. There are other firms who will take their time, get more information, and then cite the law. Everyone is different, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. We receive RFEs. It is normal, it is customary, and we also represent individuals who have either filed on their own and received an RFE, or worked with an inexperienced non-O-1 attorney and then also received an RFE. Our strategy is the same, whether you receive an RFE with us or you receive an RFE with the other attorney or on your own. The first thing that we do is that we issue you or we send to you an RFE chart. This is essentially a strategy that I am sending you where I'm including the criteria, whether or not it was accepted or not, and then the different forms of evidence that we need to satisfy that criterion. I also provide you with a synopsis of what I think your options are, how I think you should proceed. Option 1, should you withdraw, refile, argue it? It doesn't matter. I provide you with your different options so that you can assess and make the best choice for yourself. In addition to the options that I give you, I also provide you with my recommendations. So that will also help you in the contextualization of what answer or what sort of route you're going to take in the answering of the RFE. Then it's about gathering the evidence. So gathering the evidence essentially means sometimes drafting new documents. So drafting updated contracts, drafting updated letters of recommendation, sending them to you, getting you to review them, and then for you to send them off to your signer or your future employer. But to answer the question that was initially posed is, how much time do you have? You have 60 days. Within these 60 days, you will receive an RFE chart, new evidence will be drafted, and then the brief, the RFE response will also be drafted and sent to USCIS. An RFE is not the end of the world. An RFE is something that happens. An RFE is something that occurs. Why do RFEs happen? RFEs can happen, number one, when the case is poorly constructed. So poor construction of the portfolio, meaning documents that are mixed up with other documents, no clear cohesion or narrative that is articulated within the petition, could be poorly drafted contracts. In all of the contracts, we need to prove that there's a distinguished project or organization that you're going to be working with. Maybe in the initial petition, a distinguished organization was not included. or a background information on that organization or that project wasn't included. It could also be error, right? Maybe USCIS has not properly analyzed the petition. This can happen. Remember, the officer is more likely than not an attorney. So not looking at it through a legal lens. And then number two, not an artist. So not looking at it from an artistic lens as well. So that context can be a significant factor in why you receive an RFE. No fault of your own, right? It's not your fault that the officer's not an attorney nor an artist, and they're not required to be by law. But because of that profile, there tends to be errors, misapplication of the law, conflation of the law, ignorance of the law, and these are things that must be addressed within the RFE. So I'm sure that this was helpful to provide you context on how long you have to draft the RFE response and what are the different ways you can tackle the RFE and why RFEs are received in the first place. Like, subscribe, and follow for more.